What's going on, everybody? It's Amsel War Song. My thumb is healing nicely. Uh, I am actually in my company vehicle right now, Triangle Eco Detailing. Check it out on Facebook. And I'm on my way to Ring Lords Valley Judo, Morrisville, to train with my good student, my purple belt, my BJJ purple belt, Chris Raspberry. He's also an IJF pending black belt in Judo. And we're going to get some great no-gi work. Hopefully we have a seminar coming up. Big shout out to Sen Ironheart, a good friend of mine from Facebook, known for years. Really cool guy, wise cat, great striker. I bet he's a great coach too, great fighter. um, and he was interested in us teaching some no-gi judo techniques, maybe even a little coaching position, who knows. We'll see how it goes. To his great group of strikers in his beautiful facility. So I'm very excited about that. So a lot of people say, Adam, why did you get so big into judo? I mean, I come from a taekwondo background, shotokan background, 5 different martial arts backgrounds, traditional martial arts backgrounds. Then I trained with the wrestling team, and then I got into MMA, and then I got into no-gi BJJ, and then I got into gi BJJ. I'm a brown belt under the Gracie Baja system. I'm a black belt in Paredes Jiu-Jitsu, and I got most recently into Collier Judo under the Collier brothers, who trained Keanu Reeves, trained Halle Berry, trained with Eric Paulson, trained Olympians in Judo. Met them a few years ago, and we've been friends since. And since then, I've kind of adopted their style of Judo as my base for martial arts. Now, why Judo? Why Collier Judo? Three main things. Collier Judo is superior, in my humble opinion, to, we'll say, IJF Judo, Ippon Judo, Olympic Judo, whatever you want to call it, because of maximum impact of the throws, cleanliness of the technique, and its combat applications. They practice just as much gatame-waza, BJJ, as BJJ guys do. Okay. Now, please, to all my BJJ friends out there, I mean, I'm your brother, I love BJJ, but BJJ, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, is not a martial art. There, I said it. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a sport. It is not a martial art. For something to be a martial art, I firmly believe that, number one, it has to be, its current form needs to practice for actual combat use, and number two, be its own entity with its own techniques that have never been introduced before in other martial arts. Everything in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu you can find in Kosen Judo. Okay? The Gracies did not invent anything. De La Riva guard was used about 60 years before De La Riva was born. A lot of different things. And all this has been proven. I'll put a link in the description below. I can show you Oda-sensei, judo black belt from Japan, teaching in France in 1910, and an old black and white video using gatame-waza pinning techniques, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he uses every technique I've ever seen, including new school Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm talking like inverted guard, De La Riva guard, lapel guard, spider guard, spinning guard passes, cartwheel guard passes, flying triangles, anything that you've seen in modern day BJJ, the sport, then I promise he was doing over 100 years ago, before the Gracies even met someone Japanese. So I love Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, the sport, and yes, I will totally admit that they have taken it way beyond traditional judos, gatame-waza, and adaptive techniques, made fantastic at it, and made fantastic advancements in it, but it is not a martial arts on its own. It is half of judo. Judo has tachi-waza, and which is the standing throws that you see judo is famous for, and ne-waza, or gatame-waza, which is the ground fighting. It used to have three. It used to have atemi-waza, which is striking. Believe it or not, there at judo, punches and kicks. Kano-sensei, damn, this sounded like a history lesson. I just wanted to be a short video. But Kano-sensei, when he preserved the original Japanese samurai jujutsu from Japan, when it was no longer needed, and it was basically outlawed during the Meiji era in Japan, when swords were no longer allowed to be worn in public. He wanted to preserve that battlefield jujutsu, and so he invented a way of practicing it, a martial art that eventually became a sport called judo. And then we all know the story about, how Mitsuma Maeda Count Koma immigrated to Brazil during 1925, introduced to the Gracies, and supposedly they couldn't throw because they were smaller and lankier guys, so they took all the techniques from judo and started working on the groundwork and started making new techniques like the guard. I remember Henry Gracie actually saying that in a video, that the Gracies invented the guard. I can show that video from 1910 to prove that otherwise, or any of the old Kano manuals where he's showing the guard. But anyway, much respect for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I love practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu under Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rules, but I cannot, and I refuse to recognize it as its own separate martial art, if that makes sense. It's BJJ, basically just judo. Now, of course, I'm not saying judo is all that, groundbreaking either, because it's adapted from Japanese jiu-jitsu. Japanese jiu-jitsu probably originally came from immigrants from China, and then, who taught them kung fu sanda techniques or shuaijiao techniques or something like that. And the Chinese probably originally learned it from India a few thousand years ago. Who knows? Maybe it all came from Greece. All I know is definitely Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu came from judo. So that's why I really embrace judo. I also embrace judo a lot because it does not, collar judo does not rely on the gi. It does not rely on the gi. Any of the 67 throws of the Kodokan, plus all their wonderful, crazy variations that you see, can be applied without the gi. And I'm going to show you a variation tonight of a koshiguruma. Whenever someone gets that weak, I don't want to call any names, the guy who won a lot of UFC championships back in the day, the weak takedown where he has like the double underhooks, he's like trying to trip the leg, it looks like a bad Sotogake, a counter to that. So I love all martial arts, much respect for all martial arts, and martial sports. I love wrestling. I love training wrestling. I love training in jiu-jitsu. I love practicing under the sport jiu-jitsu rules. It makes you good, and these guys are killers on the ground. I'll admit that. A lot of these guys will tap me on the ground. But if it starts standing with one good throw, then there is no need for a ground game. That's a quote from my judo sensei, Monty Collier. Especially on the street. I mean, damn, if I can bury a guy with one good judo throw, and I like to think that I can throw pretty hard, especially with my koshi-waza, then that's going to be the end of the fight. And I don't think, I hope that a high-level BJJ guy isn't going to jump guard or sit guard in a real fight. He's going to get kicked in the head or something like that. So I don't know. I've been talking to so many people lately, and I've trained probably at every Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school in the area, and it's just they don't practice takedowns, and I don't understand. Let me give you one pearl of wisdom here. I do not understand how you can be a ground biting specialist without knowing how to get the fight to the ground. That makes absolutely zero sense. That's like being a boxer and you're a stand-up striking specialist and you're a knockout artist, but you have to start every fight from laying down flat on your back with the guy on top of you. You're not going to get a chance, unless you know how to escape and get to your feet. So I'm not hating. I'm really not trying to hate. Pardon me, it's pollen. But everyone, I don't know. I guess I'm just explaining why I love collar judo, because for me, it's been the most complete grappling art that I've studied. It concentrates on shooting techniques, ashiwaza, te-waza, koshi-waza, and all the gatame-waza from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, anyway, keep an open mind. Practice takedowns, please, for the love of God, practice takedowns, and not just takedowns like one day every 2 weeks. Practice takedowns every session. If you're at a BJJ school, especially like if you have any notion of competing in mixed martial arts or getting into a street fight, practice takedowns and practice them with and without the gi. So, peace, love. See you guys.